Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. We had a joint committee. This is Senate Transportation Committee. We had a joint hearing with the House this morning to go over financing issues. And so our agenda item this right now at 10:30 or 10:35 is bicycle and pedestrian planning pilot program. And we have four folks, I guess, with us, Agency of Transportation. And so who would like to lead off this morning? Talk to us about bike and ped.
I will. Good morning, Senator.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Warm down your way this morning?
Excuse me?
Warm down your way this morning? Or
It is. The SAP was running when I left home, so that's a good thing.
Right. That's right. It's good for the SAP business. I forgot about that. Yeah, I got a call in order. So yes, go right ahead. Tell us all about yourself.
So good morning. For the record, Kevin Marshy. I'm the director of the Asset Management Bureau in the Highway Division for VTrans. With me today is John Kaplan from our Operations and Safety Bureau and Chris Campany from the Wyndham Regional Commission. We're here this morning to talk to you and introduce a topic that will be coming your way as part of the T-bill as it relates to a pilot program that we're proposing for integration of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure into the work that we do. The pilot program that we're proposing in the bill, and we just wanted to give you a kind of a preview of it today. The proposal that you will be seeing is really one of what we're going to be trying to do is put together, working with the regional planning commissions, this concept around looking to communities and supporting communities through the regional planning commissions to do community-based bicycle and pedestrian planning. And I'll explain that a little bit more in detail. First, what I would say is in the bicycle and pedestrian program, in the budget, you'll see there is a statewide new federal awards line item. $500,000 of that this year we're proposing would go towards this program, which would fund these community-based bicycle and pedestrian network plans. So what is the reason for these? Basically, the idea is that, you know, for us at VTrans, so many times when we get involved in projects, we may be into the design phase of a project and we hear from communities and they say, gosh, we'd really like you to connect 500 feet of sidewalk within this, I'll say paving, I'll use the example of a paving project, or we'd like wider shoulders on this section of the road. But so many times what happens is that's later in the process. We've begun the design phase. We may have already received some environmental permits, may have right-of-way impacts, and it's kind of too late at that point sometimes. And so what we're trying to do is really get ahead of this, working with this pilot, and if it's successful, is in communities throughout the state, working again with the regional planning commissions in the communities, is putting together these very basic bicycle and pedestrian plans that highlight the priorities within the community so that we understand both on the state network and on the local network, so that we really understand as we're starting efforts at VTrans and maybe even way before we even start projects, when we're planning things, what, you know, we're going to be going through town X. What are the priorities that they have for a bicycle and pedestrian network? And the idea is that ultimately really being able to better integrate what we do for bicycle and pedestrian, the bicycle and pedestrian mode out on the network as we move along with projects and so forth. So it's not just with individual projects. There's a couple of things that we're really hoping for is really to start to align our efforts. We do a great job. You're aware of our bicycle and pedestrian program. We've had that for many, many years. But it's also about how we can integrate these types of things into projects where we can and it makes sense. If a paving project, and again, I'll stick with the paving project example, is going through a community, and before we get to that design phase, we understand that there is a high priority along, you know, the route, and it's 1,000 feet, you know, where they're looking to widen the shoulders because it would provide better bicycle access to the school or a recreation facility or something like that. We really want to know that up front. And if we do, we have a better opportunity being able to integrate that into the project. So that's one piece associated in the language you'll see. That's one piece is the integration into agency projects, just not only standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects. But the other part is, and you know, we've talked for the last couple of years about our new project selection and prioritization process, VPSB2. We have that integrated right now into the paving, roadway, traffic, and safety modes. And this coming year, we're doing that, again, a 2-year pilot. We're doing it for the bridges. And so we'll have covered those major programs. But one of the modes, so covering the highway modes, if you will, the vehicle centric pieces. But one of the modes that we have in the VPSB2 process is the bicycle and pedestrian mode. And so one of the things that we're hoping to do as we build out with these community-based bicycle and pedestrian plans is really have that start to form the framework, if you will, for priorities around the state and helping us choose standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects as well, that ultimately many times are granted out to communities. They manage the projects, and then the federal and state funds flow for the construction of the facility. So kind of a two-pronged approach. Again, the idea is just that we have this opportunity to work with our partners at the regional planning commissions in the communities to have a plan. And then the way we would implement it is integration into existing projects, and then helping us select and prioritize bicycle and pedestrian projects in the future. So the proposal that you're going to be seeing really kind of covers that, and would be funded through $500,000 in the bicycle and pedestrian program for fiscal year 23.
Well, and I know one of the things that we always stress upon is, and all right, we've had some hearings earlier as the bike and ped is, we have always made it an issue when we build new highways, and always consider a bike lane. That's been over the years, and so I think we can be very proud of how many bike lanes that we've added in the state system just by when we pave or do reconstruction. We always consider that. So yeah, this is a continuation of the work we've been doing, I think. Senator Kitchell.
Exactly.
Just to be clear, for those of us who haven't memorized the transportation plan, what you're proposing, because obviously I think Senator Maz is saying we thought a lot of this was happening now relative to bike ped integration, but what's different is that you're appropriating $500,000. Would that go to the RPCs to underwrite more aggressive planning that has occurred in the past? And so is that is that the takeaway here? I hate that word, takeaway, wheelhouse, all that crap, but is that what's different here, is that there is specific funding to the RPCs to focus on this particular area of bike ped needs?
Yes, maybe a couple responses if I could, Senator, and I certainly want to give John and Chris an opportunity to speak as well. Yes, this is specific funding that would go that way. And I would say what is different, and to Senator Maz's point, we have made a lot of progress over the years. Absolutely. Right. And we continue to do so. This is really the next step in that evolution, if you will, of that integration. And what is different here is many of the things that we have done over the years, I'll say have been more of kind of a pinprick approach of finding priorities. Maybe it happens that we're able to do one in a project by happenstance. And in some cases, we're able to do that because
it's more ad hoc than planned.
Exactly. And what this does is it takes it to the next level so that there's an understanding within the community, supported within the community. Hey, here are our priorities within our town. But also there's the awareness at the regional planning commissions when we're working with them, and many times they're a conduit, if you will, for information between towns and the agency. And then certainly at the agency, and I kind of look at it, you kind of use two terms when talking about this. It's awareness and conscious decision making. And so it's not that every time we go through a community, we're going to be able to say, yeah, absolutely, with a paving project, we can add sidewalks and bike lanes. We may or may not be able to do it, but at least we're aware and we're making a conscious decision to do it or not to do it. Where many times what's happening is we have projects, and again, sometimes communities are very proactive and we hear from them, we're able to integrate it. And sometimes communities will think of it more further down the stream, if you will, in terms of developing a project, and it may be too late. And so this just makes us aware and allows.
You mean like my sidewalk that ends in a mud hole with your Route 2 project?
I'm not familiar with that mud hole, but I'm very familiar with that project, Senator.
Yeah, well, I don't know why they ended the sidewalk where it did, but it's right in. No, I don't respond to that. My other question is this for a discrete project, or do you anticipate? And the reason I'm asking is because this is something that is coming home. We're trying to deal with it from a budget perspective. And that is, or actually we're getting it from the towns when we gave more money out for, for their allocation based on road mileage. So the question is this a self-contained project, or is it in fact creating an ongoing financial obligation and support to the RPCs?
So I would say this pilot is, we're going to attempt it this year and see how it goes. There's a lot of different thoughts and that are brought up on how to do this. We're looking to make this very simplified. So, we want to see, frankly, we want to see how this is going to work. Some regions may be able to work with their communities and have the GIS and mapping done. And we might get, region-based type stuff, or at least in some of the larger municipalities, and then in some of the larger municipalities, it might be a more concentrated effort to make sure that we're built out there. So we're not sure exactly the scale and what the deliverable will be. The scale of the deliverable will be. We know kind of what we're looking for. So in terms of, to answer your question, in terms of that ongoing obligation, the anticipation is that at least until we get to a point of having this as broad as we can across the state and across the network, it would be probably an ongoing obligation, if you will, or ongoing line item into our budget until we get to a point of having a better handle kind of network wide what those priorities are coming from the communities. Hopefully that answered your question, Senator Kitchell.
Yeah, it does. Obviously this is just a pilot, so it really is testing out this approach, but if it's successful, then it's sort of like any plan. Once it's completed, then periodically you might update it or whatever. So I see it as a sort of a self-contained piece of work, depending on the time and the scope.
As we build more bike lanes, and I certainly support them, I'm still got issues with where bikes are traveling on the highways or on the bike lanes. And as we increase the electric bike, and we had some talk about this a few weeks ago, but there's still a concern that we don't have real good laws of the highway to determine where bikes should be riding or how they should be riding with traffic on the bike lanes. And I encourage bike lanes. I think they're wonderful, but as the bicycle community grows, and that's the good news, I think we've got to do more about trying to, if they incorporate with traffic, what our laws are. And that's nothing to do with your division, but to make it safe for bicyclists. Because like I said, we get incentives now for electric bicycles, and you'll see more and more of them on a highway. That's great news. They'll, help the environment and everything else. But I think we have to be very careful about how we incorporate them with the traffic today. So anyway, any other questions from Kevin? Kevin, anything else you have at this point? Or?
Well, I certainly, and John, I'm not sure if there's anything I may have missed with this, but I definitely want to be able to give, allow Chris time to give
Sure.
the perspective from the regional planning commissions
Sure.
as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go right ahead. Thank you.
John, you have anything to say? You want me to go ahead? Just if you don't mind, and thank you, senators, for the opportunity. For the record, John Kaplan with B-Trans. I'm the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. The only thing I would add, and Kevin did a great job summarizing this pilot, is that this really builds on the on-road bike plan. If you remember a few years ago, the agency went through a planning process ourselves to kind of look at our own state network overall for bike prioritization. So that was kind of a very high level. And I would say that this pilot program really builds on that and gets it down to communities expanding and looking at their whole networks and how everything kind of ties together. So I think those things complement each other well. So that was the only thing I would add.
Is it growing over the communities throughout Vermont that more people want bike, or I know sidewalks are important too, bike lanes also? Is that a growing issue throughout the state?
I would say so. I mean, we consistently in the grant programs that we currently have end up with, usually around double the amount of proposed projects than we can fund.
Right.
And yes, I think there is an increasing interest in, facilities for walking and biking. And so
Right.
I think supporting that local planning so that we really understand, like Kevin was saying, so it's not kind of a piecemeal approach, but that their projects fit into an overall network that they're trying to achieve makes a lot of sense.
Anybody in the committee questions? I can't see everybody. Just jump right in. Senator Perchlik, Senator Chittenden, any questions?
I'm just letting you know, Chair, that Senator no, there he is. Maybe he's getting it, but
Okay,
he's,
okay.
he had some technical difficulties and
Okay,
he's
okay.
going back in through a different device. But no, I don't have any questions. I'm supportive of this. I think it's great work, and I'm glad the RPCs and the agency have tried to figure out a way to move forward to support, bicycle travel.
Has your area done well in Montpelier area? They've done well with bike.
Not as good as Senator Kitchell's area with the Lamoille Valley.
Oh, well, yeah, well, that's pretty hard to top that, but she is chair appropriation, so it does make a difference, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just,
it's a coincidence.
you know,
We did get a nice new bridge over the Winooski as part of the Cross Vermont Trail that I don't know if it's actually open yet, but it looks beautiful.
Oh, good, good. Senator Chittenden, anything in South Burlington that you're concerned about? Any bicycles there?
Yes, but I missed the presentation, so I won't. I'll watch it later on YouTube.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't know you were having difficulties. So.
He's unstable.
Oh, he's unstable. Let's not go there. Okay, John, anything else you'd like at this point? I'll turn it over to Chris or.
No, I'm fine if you don't have any further questions.
All right. All right. Who's next?
Hi, Chris, for the record, Chris Campen. I'm Executive Director of the Wyndham Regional Commission, and I chair the Transportation Committee for the Vermont Association of Planning and Development Agencies. That's the entity through which the state's regional planning commissions coordinate with one another and with our state agency partners. I'm really excited about this. I also serve on the Vermont Climate Council. I was appointed by the House to represent municipal interests. And within the Climate Council, transportation looms large as far as a leading greenhouse gas emitting sector, but also as far as achieving compact settlements, which is the state's primary planning goal. Doing really intentional work with all of our towns around and getting them to think about their bike ped networks and how those ultimately all link into the larger network. I think it's going to be really critical, especially in thinking about how do we make bicycle and pedestrian mobility a preferred means of mobility as opposed to just another option. And another critical piece that I always like to bring up with towns is when you think about it, ostensibly half of our population doesn't drive. People under age 16 don't drive. And then increasingly, folk over age 65, and that's an increasing number of our percentage of our population, don't drive. And these people don't drive by choice, or don't have the choice not to drive, or to be able to drive. And so, I increasingly try to get our towns to think about how do people get around your community when they're not able to necessarily drive themselves. And to think about it also in terms of people who are differently abled. I know I was chair of the Newfane Village trustees, and our existing sidewalks, even think about our existing networks, could be really difficult for people in wheelchairs, with strollers, and there was a young woman who lived across the street from me with a walker, to be able to get around on these ancient sidewalks, some of which had actually sunken below pavement level and were functioning as ditches. And we need to put more thought into not just assuming everybody's going to have a car and be able to get around. And so I think having these intentional conversations will be really helpful for all Vermonters. And I know that some of these conversations can actually, and one of the reasons why the additional funding will help, as these town conversations can take a fair amount of time. Immediately, a lot of municipal thought will go to, well, what's going to be involved in maintaining it, who's going to be responsible, how do we do this? And I know for Weston, I serve as municipal project manager on a bike ped scoping study, and that's been going for about 3 years, and they're still trying to nail down some of the issues on how to improve the bike and pedestrian safety there in the village. So it's really, really, really important work. And for some of these communities, this is among some of the bike ped networks are among some of the biggest decisions they make. So I'm really supportive of this pilot and look forward to doing the work.
Does the sidewalk and the bike lanes, now the sidewalks are on town property, is that correct? And are they owned by the state or that right away, or does it vary?
It depends on if you're talking about it, because we're talking here about kind of how does the whole network feed into, the different, whether it's a town road going into state roads, or so
Okay.
it really varies. Oftentimes it falls within the right of way of the state or the municipality.
Okay. So it's working together with the state, town, try to come up with some solutions or financing, or so this money, this program will help incentivize the community with funds, or
it helps. It'll help pay for the RPC staff time. This is a big lift for us staff time wise. So this was really be a major addition to our transportation planning initiative contracts that we have with VTrans every year. So this would be an additional source of funding for us to be able to have the staff time to go out and meet with the towns and, frankly, map these networks so that we have that down. Yep.
any questions for Chris of the committee?
Make one comment. And
Yes,
again,
go right
my
ahead.
apologies.
Good. Go ahead.
Having internet connection issues, but as a South Burlington City Councilor with a community that spent a lot of money on our bike paths and recreation paths, we've often heard from neighboring communities that we don't think well enough how to connect to Burlington's network as well as Winooski's. So this makes a lot of sense to have the RPC be the regional entities trying to coordinate and line up these longer term projects, investments, and priorities. So from what I took from when my internet connection was working, this makes a lot of sense, and wherever that's worth offering.
You must have a lot of sidewalks in South Burlington. I mean, seriously, that's a lot of sidewalks there. Yeah. Yes. Any other questions? No, I hear no questions. Okay, Chris, thank you very much. Anything else you want to add, Chris, at this time? No?
No, sir. I appreciate the opportunity.
Good. Okay, who else we have? Joe Sicali, is he with us?
No, Joe is not with us today.
Okay.
I think that's really all we had to cover this morning. So thank you for your time.
I do
Yep,
have
go
a
ahead.
question.
Yep.
The 500,000, is that all T-fund, or is this something that you can use federal money? What's the funding source for this pilot?
We'll be using a combination of federal and state funds, so it'll be that kind of traditional 80-20.
Okay, I was wondering if it qualified for a match, and it does.
It does, yes.
Okay.
So this is a first, right? This is something new?
Yes.
Okay, and so you figure it'll be ongoing over the years as demand is there. Yeah. No.
Yes.
Okay.
I think our hope is that we'll build out the network the best we can for the regions and for the communities that participate with the RPCs. And then I think it was Senator Kitchell earlier mentioned there will ultimately need to be updates as time goes on, but those will be relatively minor in terms of just updating something that we've already created. This is really creating something, and really this first year is piloting how we're going to create that.
In the overall picture of our transportation network, we add bike lanes when we can, when we're reconstructing or paving or setting guardrails. Do you have any idea what we put in per year presently? How many bike lane miles, or any idea what that?
I don't have that right off the top of my head, Senator.
It would be interesting to find out, because I know we get questions from time to time that, well, we should do more, but I know we've been doing over the years a lot of it, and I know every time we pave, that's one of the priorities to look at, whether we need we put a bike lane, because we want to have it safe for the for the bike riders and our highways. So I'd be, if someone could figure that out in the last 2 or 3 years, what we've added, it would be interesting to respond to some of these concerns that I hear periodically about, we need more bike lanes, but we do, but I think we're doing our part.
Right. We definitely have those numbers, Senator, and we'll work to get those to
Okay,
you.
thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else this morning?
That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Yep.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, Jeannie, we have, I think,